I want to present you also some more general aspect of what is referred maybe to as theoretical wireless networks and some theoretical aspects of wireless networks, and show you why it is important and what will be the consequence of these aspects on the practical cases. So let's begin with some facts. Actually, we have, it's not a secret that cellular traffic is increasing every day. So the question is how to face this challenge. We are speaking about now 5G, the 5th generation. So what we are expecting from the next cellular generation. So it's interesting to bring here a quote from the CEO of Qualcomm, Paul Jacobs, 5 years ago, not now, so now it's maybe slightly different, but he was asked how he saw the future of wireless communication, what will be the next generation, and he said that actually they are not really interested in pushing upper the limit of the throughput that we can insert in one wireless link. In other words, we are very close to the channel limit, so it's not obvious that someone will find maybe or find a new modulation scheme or a new coding scheme to get greater throughput in wireless link. So what we can do to have greater throughput? So what he proposed, and I believe that most of you already know this, is to increase the number of base stations. Because if you increase the number of base stations, the user will be closer to his base station, have greater signal quality and greater data rates. Okay? In Open Networking Research Foundation, they say that we are about 20% close to channel limit, and with some noise and other physical limits, they are not really interested in trying to push this upper. And what is proposed in some papers is that we need to increase by a factor of 20 the density of the base station. So actually this is very nice, but already with the current infrastructure we have a big deal with the interferences and MAC aspects, so how we can face such a challenge. So let's put more and more base station, but you will have such a high level of interference that you won't win anything. Okay, so this is the introduction of the problem. So now let's move. So what we consider in our research here is wireless devices, but we do not consider any coordination between them. We consider that the wireless devices are transmitting all the time in all the frequency. Okay? So don't think about TDMA or FDMA, just let all the wireless devices transmitting and see what happens. Okay? So when we consider wireless transmission, you will know that one of the factors to know if you will successfully decode the transmission is the SINR, okay? So you consider the received signal strength, okay? There are multiple ways to compute this. Here we consider the basic path loss propagation model, okay? With an alpha that you can play with, but no fading. You will see shortly why we couldn't consider the fading and what we can do to enhance this model. And in the denominator you have the interferer and the noise. Okay, so we consider that we successfully decode the signal from a receiver at a point P, successfully decode the signal from a station I, if the SINR is greater or equal to factor beta, okay, the SINR threshold that we have to define in our research. So let's now present you a concept that is called a SINR diagram. This is a concept that has been defined by for convenience by the theoretical community. And what is called a SINR diagram is actually a map of all the reception zones of the transmitters. So if you consider a transmitter, let's say here S1, we define the reception zones as the cell where you have all the points that can successfully decode the S1. So all the points included in this red area here have a SINR that is greater than beta. Okay? So this is the definition of the reception, the formal definition of the reception zone of a station SI. Okay, you have also the null zone, which is the complementary zone where you cannot decode anyone because of interference, or the SINR is too low because of the received signal strength is also too low. Okay? So actually we thought that this is the basic definition. You have two units, you have the reception zone, and if you consider all the reception zone, you have the SINR diagram. But that's not all, because if we consider here 5 stations, okay, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. The 5th station is in the middle of this orange square. Not really square, but... And if we let, for instance, the station that is here in the middle to transmit far higher than the other station, what we will have here is that the reception zone of the orange station will be split into 2 other zones. But this is not one reception zone. You have here 2 reception zones. You have the reception zones which is very close to the station. Then you have some white zones that are null zones because you are hearing both stations more or less at the same power. Then you have each reception zones of the other station, and then you can again receive the orange station, okay, because you are far from the small station here. So what we see is that the reception zone is not necessarily connected in the theoretical sense of connection. So this brings us to define what we call a cell. A cell is a component, is an area where you have all the points that are hearing the station, but which is connected. So you can have a reception zone of only one station that is made up from multiple cells. So now, I don't know if you are aware that there are some communities, I don't know if there are people from CS here, but there are some communities that are not that are not originated from the communication and electrical engineering, that are also interested in wireless networks, wireless problems that are nice problems. And then they want to compute some protocols, some algorithms, some math algorithms, and so on. And then, when they want to see if you are able to receive a station or not, they use what is called a unit disk graph model, the UDG model. In the UDG model, which is in the left side of this picture here, okay, you have, for instance, 4 stations. Each station has a coverage, which is a homogeneous coverage around the station, and then the checking of if the solid black square here is a receiver. If you want to know if you can successfully decode, if this receiver will be able to receive the signal from the station, from one of the stations, the condition is very simple. It has to be included in only one of the circles. Okay? So in this case, as you see, the solid black square will be able to decode S1, because this is only included into S1. S2, S3, and S4 are not interfering. This is what happens when you consider the unit disk graph model. Okay? So now let's switch to the world of electrical engineering community, and you are well aware that this is not true. Because in this case, what you are doing is you are taking the interference as a binary variable. in the sense that you are doing this. You see S1 and S3, you see, does S3 is interfering with me? If not, okay, let's go to the second one. But this is not true, because interference is not binary. Interference is cumulative. Okay? So, if we take exactly the same parameter, but we use what is referred to the SINR model, in the sense that you consider the sum of all the interference, you will see that in the same case, the solid blast square will not be able to decode any station. Okay? So this is a false positive indication, okay, that comes from the UDG model. Because the UDG model fails to capture the correct nature of the interference, which is that it's cumulative, it fades with distance. Here you don't have distance parameter, or you are in or out. By the way, I don't know if you know this, but NS Network Simulator 2 had UDG parameter at the beginning. And people made plenty of simulation and published with the NS2 simulator results, and they, okay, see our great results, but this was the UDG model. This is one of the reasons why this is very important, especially in wireless communication and wireless network, to do experiments and not rely only on network simulation. Okay? And also, another interesting example, which is the complement of the example that I showed you before. Okay? Let's see what the UDG model shows us on the left side here. You have one receiver here in the middle. Okay? S1 and S2 are transmitting at both the same time, same frequency, so obviously this receiver will not be able to decode any one of them. Okay? Because he is exactly in the intersection of the coverage. Of course, if I add another station, this will getting worse and worse. 4 station, nothing. Yes? No, it's not true. Why? Because if you consider that the interference fades with the distance, if this receiver is, in fact, this is the same case here, the exactly same case, but I consider here the SINR model. If the receiver actually is slightly closer to S1 and S2, if we consider that the S1 and S2 are transmitting at the same power, and we consider that the threshold, the SINR threshold is 1, so it's enough for the receiver to be slightly more close to S1 and to S2 to be able to successfully decode him, and this is what happens here. Let's add another station, S3. We add S3, and what happens? You see that contrary to what with UDG model, you can decode S3. Because, of course, the consequence is that all the coverage are shrinking. Okay, this is, we can understand this because there are more interference, but still the receiver is able to decode some of the station. Okay, so this is an example of false negative indication, and this is a very simple example, but very important examples that can show you the difference between what computer science community are doing, or let's say was doing, because now they are more and more going to the SINR model, and what the electrical community are doing. If you publish a paper with UDG in some of the big conferences, let's say ICC or electrical, where there are electrical engineering people there, they will laugh. They will laugh. What is this model? Okay, even with a SINR model, I'm not sure they will like it if there is no fading. Okay? So now I want to show you some properties of the reception zones. But just before I show you this, I just want to say a word about interference cancellation, because I want to extend the properties of the wireless coverage to the interference cancellation. So I'm not delving to the details of this technology, just from a high-level perspective. Just remember, you, if you already know what is interference cancellation. The idea of the interference cancellation is that you have two signals that get mixed because they are transmitting same time, same frequency. So this is the received signal if you mix those two signals. Okay? Obviously, signal A you see will be a little bit higher. You will be able to see it more easily in the mixed signal. So let's say that in this case I am interested in signal B. Okay? Let's say that I am in my apartment. Your Wi-Fi is transmitting very close to my Wi-Fi, and I am receiving your Wi-Fi instead of my Wi-Fi. So what can I do? So what you can do is the following. You can decode the Wi-Fi of your neighbor because it is the strongest signal, and since you decode it, you can just subtract it from the original signal. And then you get your signal. This is basically the idea of what is called successive interference cancellation. This is called SIC, successive interference cancellation, because we have a graduation of the level of the signal. If you receive all the signal at the same power, this is not successive but parallel interference cancellation. But let's assume here that we have graduation, and we will consider the successive interference cancellation. Okay, so now let's go to some theoretical aspects of wireless coverage. What about the reception zones? Okay, what nice properties do they exhibit? So they have some research done. There are some research done in the past about this in some theoretical computer science conference, and they proved, for instance, in port CO9, Amin et al. Proved that the wireless coverage of a station is convex. But not in all the cases. They prove this assuming two conditions. First, you need what we call the uniform power. All the transmitters are transmitting in the same power. Second, the threshold, okay, the SINR threshold has to be greater than 1. In other sense, the threshold has to be higher than 0 dB. But you know that it is also possible to decode signal now with SINR less than 0 dB. But this is the condition. Then you know that the reception zone is convex, which is an important property in algorithmics for point location query and so on. It is very important from complexity point of view if you want to compute efficiently which station will be able to decode. This is an important property. There is also a second very interesting property that they prove, and which is that if you have a set of stations transmitting, the reception zone of each station is fully contained in the corresponding Voronoi cell. I don't know if you know, but the Voronoi diagram is basically a spatial tessellation, okay, of cells, where each cell is a set of points that share the nearest neighbor. Okay? This is very famous diagram, very old. They are very efficient algorithm that enables to compute the Voronoi diagram. So as soon as you know that the cell, the reception, the wireless coverage is fully contained in the Voronoi diagram, you have already made part of the work. So this is some what we would call the topological properties of wireless coverage. And now, let's see what happens if we enter in this work the interference cancellation properties. So let's see on a very simple example how interference cancellation work. Okay? And let's see if we have convexity and so on. So this is a basic example with 3 stations, okay, without cancellation. They are transmitting actually at the same power, so you have this nice picture here, with in blue the S1 station coverage, S2 and S3. Now let's enable cancellation. For instance, I want that every receiver that is in S2 I want every receiver in S2 to cancel the signal from S2. So what will happen if everyone here cancels the signal from S2? What will happen is the following phenomenon. The coverage of S1 and S3 will be slightly extended. Why? Because you have one station less in the system, so you have less interference. So the coverage is extended. And then what you see here is that in the previous reception zone of S2, you have some candidate here that can know here S1 and S3. For instance, every receiver that will be here can hear S1 because he is now included in the new extended coverage of S1, yes? And also for S3. So we have actually, if we do the cancellation, we see that S1 and S3 have two new small cells that are appendix to their original coverage. What will happen if I now ask from every receiver here to cancel the signal from S3? Do you know what will happen? It's very simple. They will now get the signal from S1. Because if I cancel the signal from S3, the only one station that will be able to hear now is S1. The coverage from of S1 will be extended. And now you have a station. Let's say you have your neighbor that was hearing one station and then another station. So you do a series of cancellation, and then the neighbor is able to decode the station of its, let's say, grandfather that is living at the top of the roof, but after doing a series of cancellation. Okay? So this is for the nice story. You can also do exactly the same thing, but on the other side. And what will happen is that at the end of the day, S2, you will have S2 and S3, S2 cancellation, S3 and S3, S2 cancellation, and then from an original 3-station coverage, I have 1 station coverage with 5 cells. Okay? So this was the story of the wireless networks with cancellation, but now let's try to think about the theoretical aspect of this problem. Do the reception zone of a station is convex here? Is it convex? Do you know if it is convex? No, not at all. This is not convex. This is even not connected. This is before I said that every reception zone is convex. No, it's not convex at all. It's not connected because it can be made up of several cells that are not connected at all. This is worse because if we want to use these great opportunities to have several nodes and base stations to transmit, I remind you that we begin our talk saying that we need more base stations. But we said that there is interference, so we can do interference cancellation. But if all the possibilities are non-convex, you won't find an algorithm that will be fast enough and green enough and so on that will enable you to compute quickly what will be the series of stations that will be able to decode. So this is not convex actually. Maybe we will find something else, but actually this is not convex. Also, there is a second question. If I give you n nodes and then ask you what will be all the possibilities of decoding the nodes, okay, after you do interference cancellation, what will be the complexity of the number of cells? Sorry? Yeah, exponential. Because you can can decode this one, this one, this one, or in another order, or in another order. So you may have actually an exponential complexity in the ordering of the constellation that you do. This is a catastrophe, you know. For a computer scientist, you tell him exponential, he will tell you, okay, so this is not good for us, because if your computer has to do exponential complexity computation, this is not good. So this is the beginning of our problem. The question is it true? Or maybe is there other techniques that will enable us to fight against this challenge? So let's see. So actually in our work, we had to struggle with 4 challenges. First of all, we had to find if there is nice properties of this zone, including interference cancellation. We said that there is no convexity, maybe there are some relaxed convexity, something like that. The second question is the bounding on the number of cells. Is it really exponential? And then we have 2 other problems, which is how to draw the map very efficiently. I don't think that we will do this today, but this is another problem that we tackled in our work. And also, finally, design an efficient algorithm to answer the point location query. The point location query is basically a simple question. I pick up a point in the space and ask you, what is the station that this point will be enabled to decode on the station? Tell me this station or this station after this series of constellation and so on. Okay? So, to not rush to all this problem, we will focus on these 2 problems. And if you want to know how to do this, you can also go to the paper. So, just before I continue, I want to show you something to understand how we get here. Okay, so I don't know if you know, but there is a tool called Mathematica. You know Mathematica? This is a famous tool used by lots of people, like MATLAB, but something else. And in Mathematica, there is a feature that is very interesting. It's called the CDF, Computational Document Format. So you can write a paper or what you want, a white paper, and you can embed in the paper some animation. So what I did in my work, this is a work that I did during my postdoc. So what I did is after that I worked the paper, we worked the paper, I make a summary of the paper, some basic ideas, but I put it in this document the animation that I programmed during the research. Because, you know, you see a paper, 12 pages, it took us 1 year to do this. Even in 2 days, I don't believe that we will be enabled to feel the intuition that we feel when we understand what happens. So if you have the animation, you can go faster and maybe really understand what we do. So this is the basic animation where you can play with the beta. So of course, if you increase the SINR threshold, the cell coverage will shrink. Okay? If you increase the noise, okay, you can play also with the place of the transmitter and see what happens. Okay? So this is nice. Now, let's see what happens here. Here, you have 3 stations, S1, S2, and S3. Okay? So, in S1, in orange, as you see here, in orange, we have the reception zone of S1. Okay? The original reception zone without cancellation. Then, in red, you have S2, S1. What does this mean? Here, you have all the devices that were able to decode S2 at the beginning, and then I told them, cancel S2, and try to decode S1. And this is what happens. This is the region where you have all these devices that are enabled to decode S1, but after they cancel S2. And here, in green, you have all the devices that were enabled to cancel S2, but then when they cancelled S2, they are unable to cancel to see S1 because S3 is closer. So they call S3 and then S1. Okay? And in blue, you have the zone where you have all the devices that were unable to decode S3 and then S1. You understand? S3, you cancel S3 and then S1. Do you see a blue region here? No. But why not? We said that all the possibilities are okay, yes? So S3, S1 has to be displayed here, but you don't see it. Why? Because there is no such a thing S3, S1. You can't have here S3, S1. Why? Because what is S3, S1? You hear S3, you cancel S3, and then you hear S1. Is it possible? No. Because if you cancel S3, you cannot cancel it, you cannot hear S1, because S2 is closer. Of course, I made this example voluntarily, because I want to show you that what we said, that there is an exponential possibilities of cancellation, it's not true. Because you have some order to follow. Of course, if you move S3 and you move it closer to S1, then the blue region appears. Because now you have a possibility to hear S3, cancel S3, and then hear S1. Okay? So this is the blue region that was not at the beginning, but if you play with the location, you can see it. This is very important because this shows you that not every cancellation ordering is possible. By the way, this document is freely available on my website. You can download it, play with it. You do not have even to hold the license of Mathematica. There is what you call Mathematica Player. It's a free player for Mathematica that you can download and play this document. Okay? So now, let's go back to the presentation. And okay, so I believe that if you saw now the animation, you will have more feelings, intuitive feelings about what happens, and you will see what we found. So you have here what we call interference cancellation series. Okay, you cancel the first station, then since you cancel this station, you are able to hear another station and so on. And SK is the final station that you are interested in hearing. Okay? So let's say you want to compute S2, S1. Okay? How to draw this region? Okay? H, S2, S1 is the reception zone of S2, and then you cancel S2, S1. So what you have to do when you want to compute such a region is first to compute the region S2, because you won't be able to cancel S2 if you are not able to hear it at the beginning. So you cancel S2, you hear S2, so you have to be included in the HS2, which is the reception zone of station S2. And then what you do is that you have to intersect this region with a new region. What is this new region? Is the S1, the region of S1 when S2 disappears. Okay? It's S1 given that the set of station S is all the station without S2. In this case, if you have only two stations, so S1 takes all the parts. And if you do the intersection between these two regions, you have in green here the region which is S2 and then S1. This is the theoretical way to compute the reception zone of any cancellation ordering. So this is for two stations, but you can do this for any number of stations. If you want to compute the cancellation orderings, you have to get the original zone that you want, and then intersect it with the new zone. Okay? Now, it is important here to see something. This zone is convex, and this zone is convex. And do you know what is the intersection of two convex zones? This is convex. So actually, we may have successfully proved that if you consider all the possibilities that I showed you before, yeah, this is the general formula that I show you with 2, but this is iterative. You can do it with n station. What you see here is that for any constellation orderings that you want, you have to take the original and then intersect it with the new one when you cancel one of them. This is convex, okay? And this is convex by induction, so this is convex. So what we prove here is that although the reception zone is not convex because it is made up of several cells, each cell here is convex. And this is very important. This is a success because if you know that each single component is convex, you can still use all the algorithms that you have from the theoretical computer science community to perform search on the points and know which base station you can get or not. So we tackled the first challenge. We do not have convexity, but we have convexity on the cell. Now let's try to tackle the second challenge and finish with this. So the second challenge was to see what is the number of cells that I have if I have constellation. Do I have an explosion of exponential number of nodes? I already show you on the animation that you won't have an exponential number because not all constellation ordering are possible. So which one are possible and how to find them? So when we did this research, we thought how we can do, and then we remember that you remember the original reception zone. I told you that some people, actually these people are the people that I did the postdoc with them, so they remember well that the reception zone were fully contained in Voronoi diagram, yes. But Voronoi diagram was a diagram with single cell generator. And we thought maybe we can find something like Voronoi diagram, but for research that is done on interference cancellation. And we were very, very lucky because there is such a thing. There is something called high-order Voronoi diagram. And high-order Voronoi diagram is the same idea of Voronoi diagram, but instead of building cells that are the set of points that share the nearest neighbor, here is a cell that is the set of points that share the two nearest neighbors. For instance, here you have all the points that have 5 and 6 as nearest neighbor, one or the other. Okay? It's like you are living in somewhere in a building and you are saying that relatively to all supermarkets, the two closer to you are this one and this one. This is the idea of the high-order Voronoi diagram. And this exists with 2, but you can do it with any number of nearest neighbor that you want. So now let's remember what is cancellation. Cancellation is that you are seeking the nearest, or not nearest, but nearest in the sense of SINR, and then you cancel it, and then, so now you have the equivalent but in order Voronoi diagram. So if we have our station S1, S2, and S3, this is what we get when we did all the cancellation, yes? We had 3 stations, S1, S2, and S3. We cancel S2, and then we cancel S3, and we get, you remember the first example that I showed you, we get 5 cells. Actually, as you can see, all these 5 cells are fully contained in the corresponding cell of the higher order Voronoi diagram. So, for instance, the cell here, which is the cell when you can hear 2 and then 1, is contained in the Voronoi cell, which is closer than to 2 and then to 1. So, we actually here find not only that we have what we call high order Voronoi diagram, we found that there is what we call ordered order K Voronoi diagram, where in the Voronoi diagram you can make order in the cells that you have. So once we prove this, the path to the victory is not far, because there is a result proved by Edelsbrunner 20 years ago that proved that the number of cells that you can have, okay, in a Voronoi diagram is polynomial. Is polynomial with the D, with the dimension. So if you are in the space 2 dimension, the maximum number of Voronoi cells here that are ordered, not the Voronoi, is n to the 4. So we are not exponential. We are polynomial, which is not bad at all. It's not the top, it's not linear, but with polynomial we can deal with it. Maybe we find some heuristic, some approximation, but with exponential you can do anything. So this enables us to tackle the second challenge. So, by the way, during our research, we also found something very interesting that I am still wondering how I can explain this. We found that there is a parameter during the computation which we saw that there is a parameter which is alpha root of beta. Alpha is the path loss exponent. You know, basically it's between 2 and 6. 2 is the free space loss and so on. And beta is the SINR threshold. We saw that if this parameter that we call the compactness parameter is greater than 5, we have a linear complexity. We don't have a polynomial complexity in the Voronoi diagram, but we have a linear complexity. Actually, at this time, I'm not able to explain why. I can explain this on equation. This is okay, we found this. But the intuitive or the physical explanation of this, I don't have it. If someone wants to try explain this phenomenon, this is maybe a good master thesis or PhD, I don't know. But this is an interesting result that we found, by the way, in our research. Okay? And so that's what I thought. We have generally polynomial, but if we have linear and even can go decrease to constant number of cells. Okay? So actually, I would like to finish and show you how to compute the cells very efficiently and very quickly. When you are seeking what cells you have to consider the arrangement. Arrangement is that you have to trace the hyperplane in the space, okay? And you can trace here the Voronoi diagram. So actually you can say, okay, this is very nice, but now let's say that we have a big city and we want to compute all the possibilities of cancellation, so that maybe we can let the access point of the mall transmitting very high and then the other near very low, but with cancellation we will succeed. Okay, which can be a very good opportunities to do ad hoc mesh and very dense number of access points, and got it well. So, but you have to do a huge number of computation to know what each point can decode. So you have the Voronoi cells. Okay, so this decreases the complexity, but still you have to compute all the Voronoi cells, which can be polynomial. So this can take time. So how can I do? So what I want to show you is that actually you will do the computation one time, only for one cell. Then this will go very quickly. How you can do this? You just pick a point, P. This point P is here. Find the constellation orderings. I mean, what station P is able to decode and what is the constellation orderings. Okay? For instance, you can say, okay, P can decode here 1, and if he cancel 1, he can decode 2, and if he cancel 2, he can decode 3. This is clear here. You see that it's closer to 1, and then 2, and then 3. Okay? Now, what will happen here? Do you know what will happen here? What happens here? What happens here is that you are crossing what we call a hyperplane. This hyperplane here is the plane that splits the zone where you are closer to 2 and the zone where you are closer to 3. So now what you have to do is very simple. When you cross an hyperplane, just swap the place of the two numbers of the hyperplane. So here you have 1, 2, 3, yes? You are crossing an hyperplane. So you have just to swap the place of 2 and 3. And you got it. You have the constellation orderings. You didn't have to compute it even. You have it. If you want it in order, you are crossing here the hyperplanes 1 and 3. Just swap the place of 1 and 3. In this way, you can build very quickly and efficiently all the maps. You can know, I don't know what is the scale of your map, but very quickly, every point, what access points it can hear and what it can hear if you do this, and this constellation. This has a number of opportunities for all practical case. Okay? So what we do, if you are seeking spatial constellation, you just compute all the Voronoi doing what we did, and then you have to display. If you are seeking 2 and 1, just search when there is 2 and 1, 3 and 1, 3 and 1. You have it. You have it in your database. And we show in our paper that you can do this in a polynomial time. Okay? Polynomial time in the order of the dimension, of course. Okay? So let's conclude. We had challenge. We show at the beginning that there is the computer science community that used the unit disk graph. You saw what the electrical community used. You saw I show you some example that show you why UDG is very, very weak. Then I presented to you a challenge, which is how to expand the topological properties of the wireless network in the case you use the interference cancellation. And then we saw that the interference cancellation leads to what we call convex cell, okay? Not a chaos of reception zone, the reception zone that are made of convex cell. We show that the number of cells is bounded, it's not exponential, it's bounded by the polynomial number, and if you consider the compactness parameter, it can decrease to linear and even constant number of cells, which is great. I show you very succinctly, but how to draw the map. I show you that you just have to pick one point, and then playing with the hyperplane, you go through all your map very fast, and you can do this in a polynomial complexity of time, but also space in the size of the table that you need. And then, I didn't show you, but you can see in the paper how to do the point location query, which is a consequence straightforward consequence of all what I showed you before. Is there any questions?